Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Red Wine and Cigarettes. We are live tonight on Facebook. We're live tonight on YouTube. Tell your friends, get your poison, and join us. It's me, Popo. We've got Iwe. We've got Sibs. And tonight, our guest is Katleho Mabusela. Welcome.
Welcome.
Cheers. Okay, so tonight we are talking unconditional love. Unconditional love. But before we get into it, KG, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everybody. Firstly, thank you. Let me be that person who's like, oh, thank you for having me here. I very much appreciate it. Katleho, I'm a 33-year-old black male South African, part entrepreneur, part speaker, part author, part this, part that. But I think at the heart of it all is that I'm a seeker. I'm a seeker of connection. I'm a seeker of growth. I'm a seeker of authenticity. I'm just looking to make the richness of this thing called life happen, and I want to live through it, and in that process, I try and make the world a better place the way I can. So that's my story.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so I had a couple of things in mind when I came up with this topic, but I thought, let me look at what the definition of what unconditional love is. So this is what it says. Unconditional love is affection without any limitations or love without conditions. The term is sometimes associated with other terms such as true altruism or complete love. Okay, I've got my thoughts on this, but let me not share mine first. KG, what's your understanding of what unconditional love is?
I don't know if I've got an understanding per se. I've probably got a question because I think in my own personal experience, and we all have our own experiences, I've always wondered if it's possible. So is unconditional love possible? I think, and I remember specifically about 3 years ago, I was dealing with the same thing. I was like, look, should love not be unconditional? But that's not a fair thing to expect of anybody, because love at some level, in my opinion at least, is transactional, right? Even if it's not at a monetary level, even if it's not at a tangible level, but there is something that you need to bring. And by virtue of the fact that there's an expectation from the other party and that there's something that you have to bring to the party, it means that there is a condition, and those are the conditions. So if I say to you that I love you, there are conditions to being in that thing called love, in that little box that you and I are saying we're in. We're entering into a space in a moment, right? Yeah. And I think it should have conditions, to be very honest with you. I think part of the conditions is responsibility, Joe. You can't say you love me. It's just cheap and easy to say you love me, but there's responsibility that comes with that. So I don't know if I'm giving you a definition per se, but for me, it's a question. It's can love really be unconditional? And if it were to be unconditional, how would that look? And is that realistic?
Okay, guys, if you want to give input, if you're watching us live, feel free to comment in the comment section, and we'll read out what you have to say. Linz, your thoughts on unconditional love?
I think I don't necessarily believe in unconditional love. For basically speaking to a lot of the points that KG mentioned, I also do think that if I'm the kind of person, if we flip the coin and I want to be the one that gives the unconditional love, so at my own expense, at sacrificing myself, my happiness, my health, and whatever else may be in the situation, then I too have a bit of a problem in terms of always trying to make sure that I feel like I'm needed. So that's where I am. I don't really have a definite answer, but I also have those questions that is it a realistic thing to try and strive towards? Yeah.
Sibs?
So the whole week when we talked about unconditional love and we said this is the subject, and I you know me, I delve into my music, I try and find music, and there's that song that I've been singing the whole week, unconditional love, and then they say, can anyone give unconditional love? And for me, I love that question, because they're saying, fine, this thing exists, but is it real? You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So we've put a name to the thing, and we've phrased it unconditional love. But can anyone give unconditional love? My
Yeah.
opinion, no. Love is conditional because everybody comes with their different things to say, if you love me, oh wow, there's another song in my head. If you love me, like you say you do,
Yeah.
you will, there'll be certain conditions, right? Um, I do not want to be in a relationship where I feel like it's a free for all and we must love each other because we love each other. And I'm not going to be happy because you can do whatever you want. Unconditional. So, so for me, unconditional love does not exist.
Yeah. Okay, so just tying back in with what KG was saying. He was like, it can't be conditional because I'm saying yes, I will love you, but that comes with certain conditions, right? So if you remember in the initial definition that I read, it mentioned that it's similar to true altruism. So what altruism is, how it was defined, is disinterested and selfless concern for the well-being of others. And then there's something called reciprocal altruism, which is a term used by scientists for helping that is sustained by an eventual payoff from the person that receives help. Okay, I don't believe in the word payoff is problematic for me, because I can't say I'm with you or I love you for a payoff.
Yeah.
But what I'll tell you what I do agree with. I'll actually give you a practical example. I think everyone knows that Lindy was my closest friend, right? And there was a time 2 years back where she wasn't well and I was hectic at the office and I hadn't made the time to go see her. And she dropped me a text and she was like, I will never forget this. All she said was, I refuse to be loved conditionally. And I understood in that I didn't feel attacked. I didn't feel like, how can you be so aggressive? You know, I'm busy. I think by virtue of saying that you love someone, you commit to certain things. You commit to being there in the good and the bad, you know, and if I say I love you and you don't meet said expectations, I'm then going to question whether or not this is the place for me to be. Right, KG?
So I can't help but think that one of the biggest problems is that those conditions are not defined. So we take these preset conditions of what love ought to look like, right? And that's where it all goes wrong, because what happened in that moment between the two of you was that there was a clarification of the engagement or the relationship, the nature of the relationship. So she was like, yo, I refuse to be loved conditionally. And in that, I suspect there was a conversation. She was sending you a message, right? Like, yo, these are the conditions, or at least this is how I expect to be loved, which in itself is a condition.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense. So what tends to happen is, you know, we obviously live in the world where the movies tell us that love must be like this, must be like that, and etc., etc. But the unfortunate problem with that is love is very subjective. You know, and I use subjective, making room for the fact that there might be two people in that subjectiveness of it. And those two people need to negotiate how they choose to love each other, right? I am loving you. When I love you, I am giving you love. You have to receive the love as well. So if I'm giving you something in a way that you don't want to receive it or don't or can't or are not able to, then is it truly a gift? That being said, I reserve the right to not give it in the way that you want it to, right? So that negotiation oftentimes doesn't happen because we take these prescriptions, if you would, like, and we try and live up to those as opposed to say, yo, man, I love you, but I want to love you in a way that makes sense to you. How does that look? And I know even in saying that, it sounds weird. It's like, that's not romantic. But at some point, we have to manage our relationships. And the logistics of relationships are not romantic at all. And oftentimes we forget that.
Sips, you out here like...
No, I love what he just said now about love is not romantic at all. It isn't. But also, love is different things for different people. So, love for Sibs is you spending lots and lots of time with me, you being next to me, you like over giving me all of everything. Does that make sense? That's love. That's love for Sibs. So for those people who think Sibs is hot, she's a lot. So, but love also for another person can be something completely different, where the person will go, okay, I hear what you're saying, that you want me or you expect me to be with you all the time, but that for me is not love. Just because I'm not with you all the time doesn't mean that I don't love you. So we need to also define in our relationships what love is. What is this love thing? Does that make sense? And then take it from there. And then are we willing to compromise for each other? Both sides need to compromise. To then go, okay, we love each other conditionally. And there's nothing wrong with loving conditionally. It just means that you have barriers and things that you've set in stone to say, this is our love and this is how we negotiate our love. So that's why I say that there's no such thing as unconditional love. There's nothing wrong with conditional love either. It just means you have clearer barriers, clearer lines, and things to move within and to negotiate within, which makes a relationship so much easier because then you know the rights and the wrongs.
Yeah. I'd like to read a comment that was quite interesting to me. Angela Manda says, love is not a temporary feeling or emotion. Emotions and feelings change, sometimes daily, but true love is everlasting.
Hi, Angela. Angela was my intern. Angela.
So you know, go ahead.
In terms of us changing our emotions, what did she say? Feelings and emotions change, can alter, but true love is everlasting. If we try and tie this back into unconditional love, then what are we saying is, which one is the true love if we say it's everlasting? There are, what was coming to me when everyone was talking was that it seems like there are different stages of love, right? And there's the beginning stage where you feel this deep connection to a person and get to know each other. But then I started asking myself, what then when it comes to compatibility? So my conditions for love and your conditions for love, or my conditions for unconditional love and your conditions for unconditional love, because from what I'm hearing, unconditional love has conditions. So I want you to love me unconditionally based on this, and this.
On the following conditions, yeah.
So then when do we decide that we are compatible or incompatible? Because unconditional love is basically conditional love. It's just that we have conditions on how we want to be loved unconditionally. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll get back to you, KG. Let me read Pepe's comment. Sorry, Sips. Pepe says, can the conditions be designed to suit specific relationships? When I think of unconditional love, the closest thing that comes to mind is the love between a mother and child. And even in those instances, I often wonder how attainable that kind of love is. I'd love to hear your views as parents. Are there conditions that exist in the way you love your offspring? As a mother, I'd like to get back to that, but KG had something that he wanted to say.
So I think it was just to come back to the point we were making earlier, or at least that we were trying to break down earlier. And I couldn't help but think to myself that, if anything, love is a responsibility, right? Because it's a responsibility. In saying you love somebody, you unlock and expect a vulnerability from them. And once you do that, you are responsible to hold that vulnerability in trust, right? Because, hey, man, if you say to me you love me and I believe you, that means that I afford you certain emotions that nobody else has the privilege of having, right? Which one already creates that condition. You might not see it as a condition, but it is a condition. And moving the conversation to what was mentioned earlier about, like, you know, there's love, and then there is almost the logistics of love. Love is, let's not forget that love is just a word, right? A relationship is a separate word. So being in relation and being in love, in my opinion at least, are two separate things. I can feel the euphoria, the biochemistry of love, but it does not mean that I can have a good relationship with you. So when you speak about compatibility speaks to the logistics of relationship, right? So we can love each other from a distance. I could look at you and be like, "Ooh, girl, I love you." At least I feel some kind of way about you, right? I might even confuse that as love. But when I enter into relationship with you, conditions start to apply, because we need to manage how we relate. Now, how we manage that could increase that feeling, or it could decrease that feeling. We could start as people who have zero love and end up as euphoric lovers who have tantric sex for 26 hours, or whatever the case might be. Or we might start as people who are really excited about each other, but end up in a place where we don't even know each other because we haven't managed the relationship well.
But I don't think. Thank you, KG. I don't think that it only refers to unconditional love. Doesn't only refer to romantic partners, right? I think a lot of us have had the weird and uncomfortable navigation of loving family. Family. We can't choose family, right? We can't choose family. And a lot of the times we end up in very toxic relationships with family that we feel like we are stuck in. I personally have family members who I love, but I definitely do not like or have space for. I don't tell them anything because I don't trust them. I don't trust that they want the best for me. They've shown me that they celebrate my downfalls. So I love that person, but I choose not to engage with them to a point, So I think that there was a time where I had a conversation with KG on his show called Opinions, where we were speaking about self-love. I do not feel like self-love. So this altruism thing basically says that love for others comes above love for self. It was in this definition. I don't think that's practical, because I don't think that you can't give what you don't have. I don't think that you can't, that to try and give what you don't have the capacity for is to deplete yourself, So what kind of people do you think, so these people who are martyrs, do you think that it is them being selfless? Or do you think that maybe there's a void in them that is filled by feeling as though, I'm such a giver. I am so selfless. What do you think, Lynn?
I think I kind of answered that at the beginning when I was talking about how I actually think for me, I try to put myself in the position of someone who is loving unconditionally. And I thought to myself, what would make me sacrifice myself and prioritize another person? It can only stem from my needing to fill a certain void or needing to be needed. And so I guess sometimes this unconditional love thing, which I'm really, I'm not sure about it at all, speaks to emotional unhealthiness to a certain extent. So I say I'm loving you, but I'm actually loving myself because I feed off or thrive off what I feel I do for you, and I think it is the best thing to do. It's a certain form of emotional entitlement.
Yeah. It is. So KG, I wanted to ask you a specific question as a man, right? I have my opinions. A lot of women have an opinion about the question I'm about to ask you, but I'd like to know your thoughts. How do you, if at all, how do you think the notion of offering unconditional love has been used to manipulate young women? Is it something you've ever thought about? Is it something you've ever seen in action? What are your thoughts?
So specifically young women. Is that what you're asking? So
yeah. Here's the thing. I haven't spoken to Liz about this. I haven't spoken to Sibs about this, but they both know exactly what I'm speaking about. Without telling you what I'm asking you, I'd like to know if you have the same view by not, giving you hints.
Okay, well, let me start by saying that it's very hard to speak for all men, so I'll speak for a segment of them who obviously, I suppose, will identify with what I'm saying. I personally haven't thought about that until you asked that question now.
Okay.
I'd be curious as to why you were asking the question, and I think in knowing that, maybe it'll trigger, a deeper level of thinking on my side.
Sirbs, feel free, darling.
I think the reason that she asked the question is because as women and young women, we are taught to kowtow, KOWTOW, in case I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, to kowtow or koto, whatever it is, to the needs of men, to the needs of men that are the same age as us. And looking back, I'm like, what the hell was I doing? But as young women, we are taught from a young age to love unconditionally. We're almost taught to a certain extent to you are not good enough, and whatever man that you find, you are lucky, so you must love him unconditionally. So maybe the question comes from that, is that are young men, and we are much older, but if you look back to the days Sakolabure, were you were you even in that mind
Those who
frame?
know,
Did
know.
you realize? Those who know. Did you even realize that the girls and the women that you hung out with, we weren't girls, we were women, guys.
Yeah.
The women that you hung around with were socialized. That's the word. Socialized in that manner, and to kowtow towards men because we were taught to love unconditionally. And did that then affect the way that you treat women and the way that you accept women into your lives? Did you go, oh, she's here unconditionally, therefore A, B, C, D?
There's a comment here I'd like to read. Sorry, KG.
Sure, go ahead.
No. Go ahead, actually. I'll get to the comment. Go ahead.
Okay. So my question would be, when we say to love unconditionally, how did that look? That's the first question I'd ask. And I would also want to get clarity as to whether we're making a distinction between loving and maybe serving, because I don't want us to confuse the idea that we might have been told generationally that women ought to serve men, which I'm not, advocating for. But being told to serve anybody does not necessarily mean you're being told to love that person, because like we said, love is a biochemical experience. You experience love, you feel it, it's nice. But when you enter into a relationship, you're in a different type of relationship. You can be in a subservient relationship, you can be in a relationship of equals, we could list the types of relationships. So I suspect that historically women have been told to be in a type of relationship, and the word love was used, but at that time you are not loving that person because you yourself are not experiencing the emotions of love, but what you are doing is serving that person. So gone are the days and times when women exist to purely serve men, not that they should have even existed to begin with, right? So I don't even think it's a love conversation for me, but I'd like to get just clarity on that.
Actually, the comment I wanted to read speaks to that. So Mpomo Fukeng says, unconditional love loves despite the recipient of the love. So KG, I hear what you're saying, and I know that you weren't necessarily expressing your opinion. What you're speaking about love, you're speaking about serving. We were raised to believe that they are one and the same thing. To love your husband is
the problem.
Yeah, is to serve him and to be subservient and to be the Proverbs 31 woman. I'm sure a lot of us here are familiar with the scripture as Proverbs 31 woman. So the female is spoken specifically to about how to be a good wife, but she's also, when you get married, there's something they call abahulaya. Basically, the family take you into a room as the woman, and they overnight tell you, teach you, pour into you how this man is to be treated. But the same thing doesn't happen for him. He's sitting outside drinking with whiskey with his friends the night before the wedding, and you are the one who is given conditions, and you are the one who is given parameters within which you can operate. Yeah, sorry, Sips wanted to speak first. Sips, do you want to speak on this? It looked like you wanted to respond. Go ahead, KG.
KG can go ahead.
Go ahead, KG.
Okay. So when you said that, like my mind was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Look, I know in saying that this, I'm probably going to get trolled by a lot of people, and that's fine. But we need to have honest conversations, right? There are multiple things going on at that point, both for the man and the woman. The first thing is this, right? And I think you've already stated it, so I won't overly extend it at nausea. But like that moment that is happening there is well-meaning, because what is happening is that there's a generation that's trying to teach the generation following them how to better relate, right? So that's what the intention is in that moment. The problem that is one of the problems, at least the first, is that one, you are treating all men as a homogenous group of people. So I'm Katla Homabusel, I'm a 33-year-old black man who lives in Johannesburg. I'm very different to Zbu, who lives in Kotebe, and who's so very, very different. So how I relate in any relationship, whether friendship, parental, or romantic, is very, very different, right?
Yeah.
So what I suspect was happening there was well-meaning, but because of the fact that you can't teach Palesa, for example, how to love everybody. You try and give her these tools. Now, on the other side of it, you're talking about how the man is sitting and having whiskey. That comes from the fact that society has been patriarchal. I think we know that, right? And I think women understand the pain of that. Where men were being failed was that we were being taught as men that women should only exist to serve us, forgetting that in a relationship where there's two people, we have a responsibility to them as well. And our responsibility is very different yet again. So that in many ways, that moment couldn't have happened, because there's no way that my uncles could tell me, any woman that you meet in your life, this is exactly how you should love them. Because if I'm at a point where I'm saying I'm taking this person as my lifelong partner, I would have dated them for X amount of years. In the X amount of years, I would have investigated how they want to be loved. And I would have known that the way they want to be loved is how I love. And I would know that there is compatibility. At that point, I shouldn't need another man, no matter how old they are and how wise they are, to say, this is how you love your woman. I know how to love my woman. In fact, I could teach you how to love my woman, which you probably don't want to do.
Sims, did you want to respond? You had your hand up.
I just want to say thank you to Mbalikulu. That is my mother, who did not do any layering of any sort when I got married. And that's why I don't believe in that whole thing, because every single relationship is different. And I found that our elders have got a cookie cutter opinion of relationships and a way of doing things, right? And my mom raised me to say nothing is cookie cutter. And I know she's watching. Hey, mama, nothing is cookie cutter, right? So I don't believe in this ulaya thing. I have been brought into the room to lie another woman because I was married, right? So I'm considered of age to lie. Oh, I feel like I'm old. But when I'm ever in that situation, I always go, you know who your man is. You know who you are.
Yeah.
Get everyone else in this room, and then I get strong looks from the aunts and the uncles. And but you know who you are. You know who he is, which is why you guys are getting married. So run with that. Every single relationship is difficult. Every single. Which is why sometimes, as women, you guys know as girls, we're always like, yo, girl, I don't know about this guy. He's treating you like this. And there's something at the back of a girl's head that goes, but I love him because this. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But every single relationship is different. Every relationship has a different thing that puts it onto another tangent, that moves the relationship up to another level. The level might not take place within the 6 months that your friend's relationship took place. It might take place within 2 years. But our relationships are different. Kumele ufunde, you must learn how to love your person. And when you are with another person, learn how to love them. It's a different way than the previous person. Girls and guys, we are not the same. Let's all learn to love according to that person's love. That's why I love love languages. I know people always go love languages. I love languages. I love love languages because it teaches you. It's a small test. It's a 5-minute test that teaches you something about your partner that you probably didn't know. That you can then adjust yourself because we love within our love language. We don't love another person in their love language until we know what their love language is. So love, the word love, is such a different thing. And love languages actually is teaching us that love is conditional. That the person wants you to treat them like this. Because that means you're loving me in these conditions. You want to be loved in this condition. So guys, love languages. And it's a 5-minute test that you can do. You can do it with your parent. I've done it with my son. I had to learn my son's love language. Any relationship you're in, learn another person's love language so that you can treat the person better.
Yes,
100%. There's a comment here from Stembi, so I think that speaks to a lot of what we've been saying. He says, love is a contract, and contracts inherently have conditions. The problem is, as the big man said, we don't specify the conditions of said love, thereby making the contract invalid. Unconditional love, hi. So guys, keep sending through your comments because we want to read them. There's something else that I'd like to read to you guys. So then I came across a list of 7 signs your partner loves you unconditionally.
Here we go. I need to click for this one.
I found this quite problematic. You know, I'm not going to say why, but let me just read the first one. The first one is they want to grow old with you.
It's not an R&B song.
The second one is you tell them your secrets. Guys, I have a serious problem. I don't know. I'm the person, I'm going to say it now. I have an issue with like fairy tales and stuff because generally it's a young woman who's waiting to be rescued by a handsome prince on a horse, which I think is the wrong message. Now on the internet, there's an article, they want to grow old with you. It yet again speaks to what the young woman is taught to aspire to, you know? So I think the reason this concept of unconditional love exists is because we have created a world and a society that pushes that narrative. You know what I mean? It's got a place to fit. I feel like how it's defined is completely ridiculous. But because of who we've decided to get, what we've adapted to, and how the male-female relationship has developed, it's got a place. And mothers use it as a tool to prepare their girls to achieve their pinnacle, that is successful marriage. You know, without thinking, but it's successful when the man is happy, it's successful when the man is fulfilled and you're there, the picture's perfect. You know what I mean? But that's problematic. Linz, what do you think?
Sure. Wow. I really struggle with unconditional love on many levels. And for me, I firmly believe that I can't love you completely if I don't love myself. Whereas the descriptions of unconditional love are basically telling me that I need to not love myself so I can love you, which makes absolutely no sense to me, because for me, energies are potent and they you can receive and give. I can't give you something that I don't have. So that's where I am, and for me, that therefore means unconditional love is not a practical thing to live by, be it any relationship, romantic or non-romantic.
Yeah. So there's something I wanted to bring up. I was speaking to Linz about it before the show. I interact very well with men as friends, and a lot of men have expressed to me that they don't necessarily marry the woman who they love the most. They marry the woman who is the most practical to marry. The woman who fits into a mold that ticks more boxes generally than the woman who actually loves. KG, I know you can't speak for all men. I'm not trying to get you in trouble neither, you know, but a lot of men have spoken about it. And here's the thing. I don't even feel negatively about them. I'm like, oh, I'm not like, oh, how could you? They just like, I am a man. Men are generally practical. When I look for a partner and I look for a wife, there are certain attributes. This one, my heart beating custard for you does not tick certain boxes. So if you this one, the heart is beating custard. This one, I'm like, okay, I'm looking for a woman who is intuitive, who's a builder, who's a homemaker, is there anything wrong with that? Okay, the first question is, have you observed that in men that you know or yourself? And two, do you think there's anything wrong with that, with weighing out your options and not allowing love to just be about your heart beating custard?
Hey, this heart beating custard business is a lot of work. I think to answer that question, we'd have to start with what is the purpose of marriage, right? And again, a very subjective answer is probably going to come out of this. It's going to be, I believe marriage is ABCD. I believe marriage is ABCD, right? But let's generalize. Some people get married because religiously, you know, that is how they were, they were nurtured. That's how they grew up. That's how they were socialized to believe that you are only in a matrimony that is holy if you end up being married, right? Yeah. So I happen to be of a different breed in the sense that my understanding of relationship is simply this. I've always committed this, and my fiance, interestingly, knows exactly that I want to be in a good relationship. I want to be in a healthy relationship. I've experienced I've experienced versions of very unhealthy marriages at the same rate at which I've experienced healthy marriages. As a result, I don't hold much value for the term and the idea of, or the sanctity of marriage. What I do hold reserve for and what I do leave space and room for is a healthy relationship, right? And I try and work on making sure that my relationship is healthy. I am human, I am flawed. I'm sure I've let her down in many ways, and I've let the relationship down in many ways as well. So when I chose to get down on one knee and be like, yo, girl, want to make this thing official? My driving sort of principle was this, or my guiding light was this: is this the kind of person that I can work with to build a healthy relationship for the foreseeable future? And I'm being very frank to you guys, knowing that my fiance is listening to this, because nothing is guaranteed. I am hopeful that this journey will be a lifelong one, but God forbid that anything procures or prohibits that. We will have that conversation at that time, and I hope that at that time we would have such a quality of relationship that allows us to say, yo, man, we've had such a great time together that it is time for us to end it, but to walk away as two healthy bodies. But I'm not hoping for that. I'm hoping that and nobody walks into a club and be like, I want this nice time to end. I'm coming into this club like, yo, not out there.
It goes impossible. 100%. I think in our conversation we've really been focused on romantic love. But there was something that he had asked earlier on about the way we navigate our relationships with our children. Let me speak for myself. Let me answer for myself. I'll let KG, you're not a parent yet?
No, not yet. At least as far as I know.
I think can speak to this. Peps, I'm not gonna lie to you. even within my relationship with my daughter, there's certain things that I demand for myself. And this has been made very clear to her. She has her space. I love her. I know what my responsibility is as her mother, but I don't believe in loving her sacrificially. I don't believe that by virtue of my being her mother, Balisa has to die. I was me before she was in my life. Not to say I am promoting negligence, no, but I do need adult time outside of her. Sometimes she needs to leave the room, or I need to leave the house and leave her in the house, obviously within safe parameters before I get attacked. You know what I mean? As much as I love being her mother, I'm also outside of her. I'm also a lover. So I'm not a married woman. I will date. I don't feel guilty about dating. I don't feel guilty about going out on a date night, because I also, for me to be the best mother to her and not to operate from a place of resentment where I'm reminding her that I'm paying her school fees and feeding her, which are, by the way, my responsibilities. I need to make sure that I feel like I'm not sacrificing myself, and then I can love her fully and wholly without making her feel like she owes me something, because I give myself everything I need. Sibs, you had your hand up?
So something that I've taught my son from a very young age, is that for mommy to love you, right? The love is another R&B song, give and take. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're all giving of ourselves. We're all taking from another person. Whether it's in a relationship with your partner or your child, right? And especially when they become of age, when they realize, and they become of age from like 3 years old, you can start talking these things with them. Kids are not stupid, guys. Kids are not stupid. And what you said about mommy time, and I need to go out and have time by myself and whatever else. Kids definitely understand that, because they need times with them. They need time with themselves too. They also need their own, you know what I mean? And maybe sometimes they're not able to articulate it, to say, you need to leave me alone now. But if you teach them to say, you can sit alone, you can chill by yourself, blah, 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 blah. We also have to teach our kids that love is this way. Love is not mommy holding you all the time and having and squeezing you and constantly like bombarding you. That's not love. Love is mommy letting you go out, experience the world and get hurt and come back, and then we can talk about it. That's love. Love is not me doing your homework or doing all of your chores or doing whatever or doing your projects. That's not love. Love is me letting you figure out how to do it so that you are a better human being in your future. That's love. So for me, that's how I try. I don't know if I succeed to teach my son that that's what love is. You know what I mean? And his dad is also very good at that. Like, not like making love this big thing in the sky. No, love is practical. It is conditional. It's practical things that you have to do to have love.
Yeah. Lynn?
I definitely agree with what everyone has mostly said. And for me, anything that calls for anyone to be completely self-sacrificial cannot be described as love for me. When it comes to my son, I try to teach him to always be an individual by showing him that I'm an individual. I'm not just his mother. I am Lindiwe, and I have things that I enjoy. I have likes and dislikes. I have flaws. I'm still growing more and more into myself. Just because I'm your mom, I'm not perfect. Therefore, I will not. Another thing that I think we take for granted as parents is that we assume, because we are the parent of the child and that we've given birth to, that we know them completely, and we assume we know what's good for them. We assume we know what makes them tick and all of that. And you actually find that between mother and child or father and child, there is a love language conversation that needs to happen, which I think Sibs did touch on earlier. And I need to understand what kind of person you are, because as your custodian, I need to equip you with tools so that you can reach your fullest potential. Therefore, I need to learn what makes you tick. Just because I'm this way doesn't mean you have to be that way and assume that I need to get, in terms of love languages. So I think the same is in parenthood as you would in any other relationship. Let's just not take it for granted that these are our children because we've given birth to them, we know them. These people have personalities, and sometimes they evolve and they become different things at different stages of their lives. And we as parents, we need to give ourselves the room to be like, who are you? What do you like now? Like last year, my son never ate an avocado. This year, he's like, oh, I love Avo. And I'm like, since when? Like, I've known you all your life. I don't know you like Avo since when, you know? So I think we need to
KG, you'd wanted to respond to Sips?
So, as the non-parent in this equation, but I think we're all parents, and I don't want to diminish the role of biological parents, but I think by virtue of us all having young people around us, we're parenting at some level. The only thing I would add to this is that, to clarify, to say that in having those conversations with them, and I think I'm echoing what you were saying, Lindy, which is that we should be saying that this is how I love. This is what I think love is. And we should leave room for the child to explore what love is to them. Once we prescribe it, we're repeating the ills of old. And what we're going to create is a generation of young people who are trying to love the way you love. And it becomes, one of those situations where they are not even in touch with their own way of loving. And maybe if I could just say this, that as much as I don't believe that there is something called unconditional love, I do believe that there is a version of love that is healthier. So there is a healthier version of love. And that love is unexpected love, in my opinion. It is a love that says that I fill my cup enough that when I give you love, whether it is the way you receive it or not, but if I give it the way I know it, I am not expectant of a reciprocation. I don't need that to feel any better about myself. But I do give it. Once we are in those places where we're giving love from that place, we're not married to it. We're not like going to hold on to it like, I love like this. So when somebody says, that's actually not how I receive love, you then go, oh, okay, how can I give it to you in the way that you want it? Because in giving it, I'm losing nothing of myself. All I'm gaining is a better quality of relationship.
Yeah. KG, I think that is the perfect place for us to round up this conversation. But I think really what the overriding feelings and thoughts here were that love does come with a responsibility from all sides. Really, there is nothing noble about being self-sacrificial, guys. I'm not gonna lie to you. That gives me that I'm not interested. You know what I mean? I'm a lover. I'm a big
it's
lover.
A lot.
And I love a space where I feel safe to give and overgive, and because the person who's receiving that is the same as me in that sense. Do you get what I mean? Because when that happens, both our cups are always overflowing, But I think every human being is going to find themselves in a situation where they are overgiving. And it's not being reciprocated, it's not being nurtured, it's not being protected, it's not being appreciated. Instead, it's being manipulated. As soon as you decide to choose yourself, said person is like, I'm sorry, because you're choosing yourself. I'm not talking about that situation, So there is a space for this unconditional love thing, but the space is where the other person is doing the same thing. And no one in that situation, no one is left void. We agree on that?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's the overriding feeling, and I think that as parents specifically, our generation, all of us on the platform have been raised by a generation that, I'm not accusing anyone, but it's very prevalent that a parent reminds you of what they're doing for you as a parent, because they forgot themselves in navigating the parenting and the loving of you. So maybe let's engage around that and see how we do not become those people. And I'm going to thanks, guys. So next week, we're gonna have another guest, and we will be speaking about why the relationship between the Black man and the Black woman is so tense, so terse, so negative, so cold.
Can I come back for that, please?
If only. Because with everything that's going on with femicide, GBV, we don't need another conversation about who's right and who's wrong. We need a conversation about why we are here and how we heal it. So we move together differently. KG, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Guys, KG has a show on every Thursday, 10 a.m. live on Instagram. It is called Opinions. And I was actually on the show a couple of weeks back. It was absolutely fantastic. He's also got a podcast called Opinions on Spotify and iTunes. Support him. Let's lift each other up. Real conversations of what we need to become about. Y'all thought it. We said it. Good night.